Hey, this is Greg Johnson with Blue Book Services, and I'm joined today by Robert Guenther with United. He's a VP of Government Relations, right?
Yeah, that's right. That's
All
right.
right.
Close enough.
And last week, we had our very first virtual Washington conference, which is one that several hundred leaders in the produce industry typically come to DC, have great meetings, hear speakers from all levels of the government. And then I know a highlight of the visit every time is people in small groups will go visit their Congress members up in their offices. And this year, we're doing that virtually as well. So, Robert, I'd like to first ask you what you consider the highlight of last week, like the main part of the conference.
Well, Greg, thanks again for having me. I know we've always enjoyed these discussions we've had in the past. So I'm glad to be back on with you. I think last week really the best thing about it is it worked. You know, we were able to put the conference on virtually. I think we had very engaging discussions with the administration, with Congress in terms of a congressional panel we hosted, but also even the President Trump and Vice President Biden campaigns. I think I'm pretty confident that was the first time thus far in the campaign in the food and ag space that we've had both campaigns on at the same time, or somebody's had campaigns on the same time to really talk about what their visions are or were or are going to be in a 2021 and beyond under a current Trump administration, or if Vice President Biden wins. So I think that was a unique opportunity to hear from the campaigns. So that was very exciting to hear that. And obviously Ray Starling, who was representing the Trump campaign, and Secretary Vilsack, who was representing the Biden campaign, are two great advocates for both those campaigns, but also food and ag. So it was a good discussion. We had a really good, Tom and the Secretary of Ag had a really good discussion, kind of a fireside chat about key programs, like the food to farm to family program, the coronavirus CFAP program. So those also went very well. That was a good, timely discussion as well.
Yeah, I enjoyed hearing from Secretary Perdue and some of the specifics and his ideas about different programs.
Yeah.
Well, looking forward to this week, as not typical during a normal policy conference, it would all be in one week. You would have meetings, and then you would go visit the Hill. This time, it was mostly the program last week, and then this week are virtual Hill meetings.
Yeah.
What are your expectations for how these are going to go?
Yeah, Greg, I think this is great. It's kind of interesting. As you mentioned, usually we compress all these different sessions, education sessions, general sessions, and the visits all in a 3 to 4 day period. So it's a lot, for the attendees to take in. But, it's a unique opportunity, again, to meet face to face with their elected leaders. This year, as you mentioned, we did the education part in the front end. So it really gave the attendees a chance to kind of learn about the issues, what's happening in real time, understand the issues a little bit better. And now, as you mentioned, this week, we have started our series of what we're calling our virtual March on Capitol Hill. So we have a series of meetings, Monday through Friday, congressional meetings, administration meetings and even embassy meetings from several embassies that we're going to be talking with. So it's a unique opportunity for attendees, not just to go to their group of meetings, 3 or 4 a day, but they can spread out throughout the entire week and attend meetings from different, members of Congress across the country. Not just their member of Congress, or their senator, but they can participate in a number of different meetings from different parts of the country, different political parties, and learn about their views of our industry and what's important to our industry.
Now, when we visit these people on the Hill in a typical week, we oftentimes will meet with their staff rather than the member. When you're doing it virtually, are you finding that you have a bigger opportunity to meet with the member, him or herself, as opposed to staff?
Greg, that's an interesting thing that we probably, in the summer when we started planning these meetings, we weren't sure how, this was going to work in terms of the the meetings, but we've really, been able to generate a lot of quality meetings. So the members have been, at least starting, we started a little bit last week, but, the few meetings we had last week, we were able to, get good quality discussions and meetings with the members directly, with the senators directly. So they've worked very well, and I think this week will be the same. We've been able to secure time with with senators and House members across the board. They have a little bit more time, I think, doing these things virtually, during meetings virtually. So, I think that's one of the neat things about this, along with kind of the ability to visit a lot of different offices in a short amount of time.
Is there a topic or two that's important to the fresh produce industry that you're finding is really resonating with Congress members?
Yeah, I think two things really resonate. The need for additional funding for the COVID-19 pandemic response. A lot of talk about doing a fourth stimulus package this year. It's not going to happen over the next couple of weeks, but certainly as we get past the election and into potentially a lame duck session, there's a lot of opportunities, a lot of optimism this may happen. So there are some things in there we'd like to see: continuing of the farm to family program, continuing of the direct payments to growers, the CFAP program, the paycheck protection program, continuing that program are very important tools that our industry has used since March, and since this is kind of, having to deal with the pandemic. There are also new opportunities, new types of legislation we're pushing. And then secondly, or another area I think too, is really to tell the story about how the industry has been adapting, has had to deal with and adapt to this new environment. Those have been very compelling stories that our members, our attendees have been able to talk to their members of Congress directly and tell those stories about that. How they're working, not just as a business, but with their employees. That's a big issue right now, of how employees are being treated, how they're being taken care of. Again, it's a great opportunity for us to have that conversation, or our members to have that conversation in real time this week.
And a lot of times, don't you find that that the produce industry member has a relationship with that Congress member, and they can see them on video, and maybe they've even been to their facilities, something like that?
Yes, I think that's one of the beauties of this. I think it's something that we have learned over the many years since 1995 when we started this conference, is, we want to make sure our industry doesn't just, use usually 3 or 4 days, check the box and say, okay, I've done my civic duty and help the industry. We want this to be a year-round, 365-day relationship that they build. So for new people who are part of the conference this year, this is a good start. Then they can build on that, inviting the members of Congress and their staff to their facilities, their operations, things like that, visiting with them in the districts or the states. So all of those things, yeah, this is a good start, but we need to make sure we continue that interaction, as you mentioned, Greg, throughout the year. And a lot of our members have had that opportunity, and you can see that in the quality of meetings when we all get together and talk about those types of encounters that they've had. One anecdote I will say is, it's been interesting. A meeting I was in last week with Senator Klobuchar from Minnesota, her staff. And we had several folks one lived in Oregon and one lived in California, who were part of that meeting. And they were able to talk about, them growing up in Minnesota and, going to school in Minnesota, their company, one was, there from, was located in Oregon, but their headquarters in Minnesota. Again, it gave them an opportunity to do that meeting when more likely in person they would have been in the Oregon meetings or the California meetings, and wouldn't be able to make that connection back to their home state with the senator from Minnesota. So that was another one that you learn through this, or we've learned through this process, that it provides another unique opportunity to connect those dots, so to speak.
All right. Well, I wish you luck this week, and wish luck to the produce industry as they have these meetings. And I have to say, I was even looking at my my handy guide that I pick up every year when I go to this conference.
That's right. We didn't have the guide this year.
So hopefully next year I'll be able to get my new congressional directory with.
Right. Yeah, we hope so too. We hope we're all back together next year, Greg. So that's great.
All right. That is the hope. Well, thanks for joining us today, Robert, and good luck with your meetings, and we'll talk to you next time.
Great. Thanks, Greg. Appreciate you letting me on.